Welcome everyone to our next webinar. We're doing these every other Tuesday or so, for second Tuesday and the last Tuesday of the month, and having a great time of these with doing the one of them is in the midday and the other one is the evening like this. So I hope. I hope everybody's getting some good times out of this, and this is the kind of webinar that I'd like to do in the evening one. So it's we'll see how it goes. But Christina Lam is going to join us today. She's the somebody I've known for quite a while, and chatted with her. She's come to a couple of my seminars a number of years ago. I'm sure we'll chat about that a little bit. She's an owner, she's a driver, coach, engineer, obviously a tire changer from what we're sharing on the screen there, and but a very interesting story in motorsports, and I'm looking forward to chatting with her about how she got started in this and where she's at now. Christina, thanks for coming.
Thanks so much for having me, Roger. And I appreciate you accommodating my little bit of a weird work schedule. And thank you guys to all of you guys who are attending tonight. Really excited to talk to you guys and just chat about racing.
Exactly. We like these to be pretty conversational and just learn a little bit. So those of you that are here live, if you're watching and you have a question that you'd like to add, make sure you bring up your the question and answer box from Zoom. I cannot keep up with the chat box. We've created quite a group here that we have some good fun with, that we've known each other for 4 or 5 years. A lot of friends have been made here, and then they chat about everything in the chat box. So if you have a question that you might want to ask Christina, make sure you put it into the question and answer box, and I can see that. So appreciate that. The kind of as we get started, Christina, I'd like to mention that our next webinar is going to be a little bit more technical again, and what we're going to talk about is user profiles. Probably in the last 3 or 4 weeks, I've had a good number of questions about user profiles, all the way from, what are they, how do they work, what do they do for me, to some more in-depth technical things. So I think an hour-long webinar where we do, the what is a user profile, what do we use it for, how do we set them up, where we actually get in there and with live data just start knocking out and talk about first, what is it, how does it help you, what does it do for you, why is it such a big deal. So I think it's one of the most important things inside of the Race Studio 3 analysis software, that it's very important and very powerful. And so we'll talk about that, and then we'll just jump in and we'll actually be building them and moving them around and copying them and exporting them so you can give them to your friends, and the full run of what user profiles are. So if you have a deep interest in understanding user profiles in a deeper way, make sure you join us here April 29th at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. We'll have Emiliano from AIM Italy will be here with me as well, but I'll be doing the bulk of the presentations, but Emiliano will be here to keep me straight. So come join us on the 29th. We'll have a great time. Christina, let's chat a little bit about. I got one slide, and then we're going to take the slides off so we can see each other a little bit better, and everybody can see us chat. That the first slide I thought we would start off with is an honor that you've been presented with, and from a lot of our good friends, John Doonan there on the image there on the left. I understand that was this weekend, or maybe you can tell us a little bit about that. But been selected into the I think for the second time, I think I read somewhere, IMSA Diverse Driver Development Program, and John Doonan was the fellow that gave my son a shot in the Mazda driver development program. So and that's how I met John to begin with. So what is the program, and where are you with it, and what's your hopes for it?
Yeah, John does really incredible things, and
Yep.
he worked his magic at Mazda for many, many years,
Yeah.
and then he's now working his magic at IMSA, and he's really grown the series a ton, and he's just done such great work for it. The driver development program is a scholarship program that offers about $300,000 towards a racer's next 2 seasons in IMSA, and this applies to everything from VP Challenge, Michelin Pilot Challenge, WeatherTech, and this year it also includes Mustang Challenge. So this year there are 12 finalists. This is my third year being a scholarship finalist. I was a finalist in 21 last year and this year. And so obviously hoping to put together a good program and be selected because, pro racing is everyone's dream. And I see, so many talented drivers get to go racing, and the hardest part is putting a program together, and more importantly, making a sustainable program. So my goal now that I am in the IMSA paddock is to make my program sustainable. So hoping to leverage that, win it, and it'll help me put the next 2 years together. The program offers everything from entry to tires to fuel. OMP comes in as a suit, suit manufacturer to sponsor that. There's media that comes in. So there's a lot of in-kind stuff that gets offered. Rafa Racing does offer $25,000 in cash towards your program. So all this kind of stuff adds up when you're putting together an IMSA program that's several hundred, if not millions of dollars. So really gunning for it this year. And I have a couple of tricks up my sleeve. So crossing my fingers for the best.
And you raced for the first time at Daytona this in February, right? January, maybe.
Yes. Yes. I had my first ever IMSA race. What a dream come true. I mean, Roger, you met me when I was in HPD2 in NASA.
Exactly.
I signed up for one of your seminars at OG Racing, and I was like, cool, I'm gonna learn this data and this AIM solo that I'm buying today. And I remember like I had saved up for that thing, and and now here I am like spending hundreds of thousands of dollars going racing, right? Like it's just crazy how there's scope creep when it comes to racing. But I remember saving for that AIM solo, and it was such a big purchase, and I was like, this is it. This is the key to getting fast. And it was. It changed everything. But I mean, yeah, it's pretty cool to think like, hey, I started and met you doing HPD2, and I've followed all of your webinars over the years, so it's really cool to be on here.
Perfect. And then the picture with John, you were up in Washington D.C. this weekend. What was your goal there?
Yeah, so that picture was actually yesterday. It was a reception for the National Motorsports Coalition. And I got invited to speak at this last year. There was a panel of different racers and industry experts from all over the country show up. So racetrack owners, the owners and COO of Indy and Watkins, and Connie was there from VIR. They all go to speak and just kind of check the pulse on what's going on. And this year we had a pretty important topic that we were talking about and just bringing to everyone's awareness. It's a tax bill that we're just trying to make sure that it gets renewed. There's a 7-year depreciation tax bill that applies to motorsports entertainment venues, and what happens is if it expires, it gets treated as if it's an amusement park, which or a stadium. And racetracks are neither of those things. And the big reason we want to have that continue, and so the owners of those venues can continue to operate in the way they do, is so that owners like Connie can continue to invest in VIR, in the motorsports industry. And it's really important for the series owners to also be there, voice their concerns, how it would affect them, because at the end of the day, racetracks are privately owned, they're privately funded, and private investors come in for those, where stadiums are publicly funded. So we just want to make sure that the finances are in order, so that we can keep racing at some of the best places.
Yeah, the tracks need the racing organizations. The racing organization need the racers, right? So it really is
Yes.
one big thing that everybody depends on everybody. So I'm glad you're there helping and trying to get the word out. So thank you for that.
Yes, we met with Congress today. I was in meetings all day long. I think I was in DC for like 12 hours. I just got home. But we had a lot of great meetings. We were running back and forth between different buildings. And if you guys have ever been to DC, all the buildings for Congress and Senate, they're actually all connected underground, which is really nice because it was freezing today. It was like 30 degrees and windy. And if you go out, you have to wait through security again to get into a different building. So once you go in, the secret is to go underground and figure out which tunnel leads you to the next building that you need to go to. And there's cool things, like there's little trams underneath too if you have to go to one of the further buildings.
And having that good pass to get you in there that way and be able to run around probably didn't hurt either, right?
Yes.
So,
Oh, yes. We had shepherds that, brought us where we needed to go, and it was definitely a very cool experience. So I have also been to Congress for my day job, which is with the Department of Defense. So it's kind of interesting to go back to Congress on behalf of the motorsports community. But it was kind of cool to be there for DoD a couple weeks ago and then be there for racing today.
probably a little less stress on the racing side of it, right? So not the job.
Yes. Oh, for
So,
sure.
exactly. So let's stop the share real quickly there, just so we can see and we can chat a little bit. What I was thinking about doing today is we're gonna talk about you and what you do and how you kind of got where you're at. But you really do wear four different hats: driver, coach, engineer, and owner. So I think we'll just kind of hit in those four topics and see where it kind of goes. So give us an idea of how you got into being into to HB2 to begin with, right, with NASA, and then and how did you get into motorsports? Was your family into that? Did you know somebody? Did you just enjoy cars and going faster? How did you get into this crazy game?
Roger, I look back at where I came from, and I feel like it seems a little unreal to tell this story, like the deeper I get into it. But like most people who are in HPD or in grassroots motorsports, my family was not into it. My family is very, very traditional. You can read in between the lines, it's very academic. I have an electrical engineering degree from University of Maryland. I work for the DoD. I didn't get into anything race car related until after college. And the way I got into racing was actually I went to visit a friend in Germany, and we went to go drive the Nürburgring because it was just a bucket list item that you do when you go to Germany. I knew absolutely nothing about cars. I didn't know how to drive manual, Roger. And I'm with this guy friend, and he's like, cool, let's go drive the Nürburgring. You bought this BMW at home. It's pretty cool. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. And we get there and we rent this Suzuki Swift race car from Rent for Ring, which is still around, I think. And we're going to take turns. And he's like, all right, well, I'm going to go out and do a couple laps, and then I'll come in and you can take the car out. And I'm like, cool, like, yeah, you go first. And I needed him to go first because I actually didn't know how to drive manual.
So you're a
And
little
so
nervous. So you're a
while
little nervous.
it was, it's funny, it was one of those like, I didn't know what I didn't know. So I didn't
Exactly.
know that I should probably be a little intimidated by the fact that I'm at the Nürburgring, it's raining, I'm about to get in the race car and I don't know how to drive manual.
Oh,
And I was like, cool,
jeez.
like, I was like, how hard can it be? So while my friend is driving, and I'm not gonna admit to him that I don't know how to drive manual. I'm like on YouTube. I'm like, all right, we got to figure this out. Like, let's not embarrass ourselves. So I watch a YouTube video, and I'm like, okay, I understand the process. I don't understand why, but I can regurgitate. Like, this is like a math class, right? You get the formula, you plug and chug, and you do the thing. So I was like, cool, we'll go drive the Nürburgring. And so like I went and I drove the Nürburgring. Um, like not really understanding that like just how famous the Nürburgring was, or that the fact that I'm in a race car on slicks in the rain, just completely oblivious. I honestly think that the biggest win of the day was I didn't stall the car.
You got moving,
Uh,
right?
we got moving. We got moving. I will admit, so it's you have to swipe an RFID tag and the gate opens for you to get on track. I did struggle to find the engagement point when I had swiped the card. The gate went up, and I was like, okay, like they talked about some clutch engagement point, and the guy's like, go. And I'm sitting there like
Wow,
revving the
wow,
piss
wow,
out of this
wow,
little
wow.
Suzuki thing. And he's looking at me, he's like, go. And I'm like, I was like, I'm trying. I'm like, I'm really trying. I'm not sure how to do this. Like we got here from the parking lot, but like I'm really trying to go. It must have taken me like 3 or 4 minutes to get the car going. At which point I got to fourth gear and we stayed in fourth gear for the entirety of the track.
You're no
I would
dummy,
love to
right? You're
go
no
back.
dummy. We're gonna leave it in gear.
I was like, we're leaving in gear, like we got it rolling. Um, I would love to go back someday and like actually properly drive it now that I do know a little bit about driving. But yeah, that's how I got into motorsports.
Interesting.
Um, I
But
was
it
like,
planted the seed, right?
uh,
It planted the seed, and then when you came home, you
it
started looking
totally
into it.
did. It totally did. And I came home and I was like, oh, that was pretty cool. And I hired an instructor at the time, and he was like, hey, you're pretty good at that. And I was like, okay, cool. Like we're both still alive, so yeah, like I'm pretty good at this.
It
Um,
didn't hurt myself, right? Exactly.
yeah, like we're still shiny side up. And so when I came home, I got started with autocross. And that's how I got started at home is I that was what I could afford at the time, and $35 to drive, a full day. And I get that it was 4 minutes during the entire day, but it felt like a whole day of race car related things, and it was
Absolutely
competitive, it
was.
was timed. Yeah, and so I went head first into autocross. I did every single event I could find. Every weekend I was out there being sunburned, shagging cones, doing whatever I had to do to just get behind the wheel. In my daily driver, it was an E90 328. It was automatic, all-wheel drive. Everything was wrong about that car for motorsport, but I didn't let it stop me. I was like, it's what I have, so like we're gonna go do this.
Everything was wrong, but
Um,
it was perfect, right? It was perfect. It was
it
great
was
fun.
it was perfect. Like I mean, it was wonderful. And then I ended up meeting a girl who was also there with her dad, and her dad was like, "Hey, like we're gonna do every single event in this Miata that we have." And I was like, "Okay, I know enough about cars now that I know that Miata is always the answer." And he's like, "Would you like to co-drive with my daughter?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Let's do it." So we finished the rest of the season in the Miata. We went to SCCA Nationals out in Nebraska. And so that was like my first time at like a national level event. I competed in STRL in an NC Miata, and I think I placed fifth at that event. There was a good number of people. And that was like it was just downhill from there. I mean, autocross was the gateway drug.
And finishing well enough that you're like going, well, that was fun, and I'm getting better. So yeah, let's open the checkbook, right? This is a problem.
It,
Yikes, yikes.
it was dangerous.
Yeah. Oh well.
From there, it was, the occasional track day here and there, and then it was how do I do more of it? At which point I bought my E36, which is what I did DE in. Um, that was a whole fun story. I was planning on buying a Miata, and my friend calls me at work, and he's like, "Hey, just to let you know, we know these people who are selling this old E36 M3. It's automatic, but they only want $3,000 for it." And oh, he had texted me, and I immediately was ill, and I had to go home from work, and I went straight to the bank, withdrew $3,000, and when I bought that M3.
That's funny. Not even feeling
Um,
well. That was hard to believe.
oh yeah, I know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of
I,
course.
I mustered it up to
Yeah,
go and buy the car.
the energy. Yeah, exactly. Well, cool. And then from there, it has obviously continued on, and I've watched you over the years, just rising up and getting faster and faster. Obviously, had a few scary moments in your career, obviously, but happens to everybody. The
Yeah.
To kind of go into a little bit of the data side on the driver, the when you're out there racing, as you were developing and coming up, and you had the solo, and then probably had probably some GoPros at first or something in there. Data and video. What is your review process? What works for you? Are you a data person or a video or both, or what's your thought on how you use the product?
I do a mix of both. So you kind of nailed it on the head. I started with an AIM Solo, the OG with a black and white screen. That's still one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And I had a bunch of GoPros that I could never quite get to work right. My second favorite purchase is my Smarty Cam, and I tell everyone that they need one. If I see them have a GoPro, I'm like, "How much video have you lost? How many races have you not recorded?" And they're like, "Oh, we don't want to admit it." Like, yeah, I was like, just get the Smarty Cam. It's life changing.
Yeah, there's
Um,
so many people have bought GoPros, and then and they even want to sometimes sync the data, and there's programs for that, and but it's a lot of work. And when I see people
It's
that are
just,
really into it and they're doing that process, I know it's 3-4 months away before they contact me back and ask, what is the right smarty cam for me? How do I make this come all together, right?
yep.
Because it's just that frustrating at times with the other process.
Yes, it is. I jerry-rigged all sorts of stuff to try to make
Yeah.
my stuff work. I mean, my GoPro was hardwired, and then I had like a remote to like, but sometimes I had the wrong memory card and it would turn off, and I could hear it. It was infuriating to be like all strapped in, and then I hear the GoPro beep and it turns off, and I'm like,
And you know it.
no, and they're calling
Yeah.
one. I'm like, it's
Yeah.
too late.
Yeah. Oh well.
Um, but because I started with just the aim and a GoPro, my usual process, I think it probably just ingrained from back then, is I download my data every session, and I often didn't look at my video until later in the evening, unless there was like something I really needed to like pull. But data was always my first thing that I looked at. My favorite thing is to find someone who is faster or that I know has good data, and the best thing you can do is befriend someone and share data. I'm a big fan of just share it. And people are all afraid, like they're like, oh, well, if they have my data, they're gonna get all my secrets. I'm like, sure, they'll know what to do, if they know how to read the data, which I think a lot of people need to just figure out how to, they need to go to your seminars and they need to learn how to read the
Exactly.
data.
Exactly. And
Um,
and sometimes even when you know you can what to do, it's a hard game we're playing here, right? You can't
oh
just go
yeah.
do it just because you know you want to do it. If it was that easy, everybody I'd still be racing if it was that easy, right?
Yes. If it was easy, everyone would do it.
Exactly.
So, I'm all about sharing data. Like, sure, have mine. Like, if it can make you faster, maybe I can learn something from that too. But I love sharing data, and my first thing is I always try to either look at a reference lap that I have that I'm like, hey, this like I know I put down like some real good laps, whatever day race. Obviously keeping conditions and everything in mind. But I love looking at and just comparing that right off the bat, and within a couple seconds, hey, like, oh, I'm chickening out turn 4 at Summit, like, and you kind of know that in the back of your head already. You just need to see it on paper before you're like, okay, we need to actually fix that. So my favorite thing is to actually just pull data first, look at that, and then rough glance, and then now because I have my Smarty Cam, it's really easy to just pull that and go straight to exactly where that is as well, match that up and say, okay, like, let me see, like, why am I chickening out in turn 4? Like, is there something different? Like, does it look like there's less grip? And kind of pairing them together to get the most out of it.
Yeah, that data and the hard numbers plus the visual of the Smarty Cam is an amazing tool when you put them together, right? It especially if you mount the camera in the right spot where you've got basically what you're seeing, it becomes a very powerful tool. You, the
Yeah, I'm a big fan of getting a good wide view on the Smarty Cam. I like that wide angle lens that you
Yeah,
guys have. And then also making, like, the one thing I always tell people is make sure you can see your hands, see the wheel at least. If you have like a center line mark on your steering wheel, try to see as much of that as you can. And then depending on the car, depending on the angle, sometimes you might be able to get some movement of your feet. And
yeah,
that's also helpful too, even though you'll usually, the newer cars, you'll have a little bit more data, but some of the older cars, like my E36, like, there's no brake pressure, like throttle. If you just have the aim solo, like, you got what you got. So try to include as much of that as you can in your video as well.
even if you can just see the top of your thigh, right? Because then you see the off the throttle towards the brake,
Yes.
and now you know that point, right? And you can dig into the
Yes.
video a little closer on top of it. We've got this thing I always call the data acquisition triangle, which is driver performance, vehicle health, right? It's all data analysis falls into one of those three things. We mention it a lot. It sounds like, especially early in your career, certainly the driver performance was a big piece of what you're after because that's where you were in the game. Have you stretched that out and started to use the other parts of that data analysis triangle?
Yes. So, and I use it, I guess, a little bit differently depending on my role as well in what I'm doing in motorsports. The driver performance is and always will be at the top of the triangle. But the other two pieces are the base of what makes you a good driver. Vehicle health is super important, and I went down a rabbit hole. Luckily, with my E36, I just had the aim, and so there was no other data. It was just me and my driving. But I did go through a period of car troubles, which made me a little bit paranoid about my vehicle health, and so unfortunately, I zoomed in on that I had to train myself to kind of let that go. But I was zooming in too hard on things like my water temperature, my oil pressure, my oil temps, and it got to the point where I was like staring at it on my dash. But that's where the aim dash pages were really nice, because then I could just flip it away. And I'm like, if I can't, I just had to say, like, if I can't see it, it doesn't matter. And I have little alarms, the little lights set up, and the screen will flash if it's really going to blow up, at which point, I feel like you gotta let go. Like, the engine's gonna run the best right before it blows up anyways. And it, I've learned to let that go. I'm like, if it blows up, it blows up. And honestly, it hasn't blown up all that often. So,
Exactly.
but I did go through some engine troubles, and it kind of distracted me for a little bit,
Well,
but it is
if you
important.
can't finish a race, you can't be very quick, right? That there, so you
Yes,
almost forced to go down that road at some level.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Um,
You
but yeah,
At Daytona, you had driver teammates. Did you were you able to leverage some of that there, since I think it was a new track to you from what I've read, and were you able to learn a little bit, or is there just not enough time? There's never enough time at Daytona in those
oh,
events, but were you able to leverage the sharing of data?
we did probably one session in the entire 2 weeks that we were there. There was not enough time,
Never enough.
mostly because we had engine troubles. But we used the data, the Motec to pull all the data to try to figure out what was wrong with the car. And so that unfortunately was our focus at Daytona. We had a lot of issues with power, and I think it was fuel pressure, a bunch of different things. Somehow we did get it resolved for the race, so we ran the race trouble free. But we're actually testing the TCR car this weekend at Mid-Ohio. And so I'm looking forward to really, like, the car's been tested, sorted. We have a new engine for it. So I'm looking forward to 3 days of, the weather looks great. 3 days of really good, just data download after every single person session, back to back. What do we need to improve on? Because that is our next IMSA race. It will be at Mid-Ohio in June. So this is going to be perfect for us. And Mid-Ohio doesn't give you a break, and we need to maximize every single corner and maximize the grip in the car, because it's front wheel drive, has a lot of turns. The last thing we want to do is wear the car out. It's going to be a long race, so we'll be looking at a lot of stuff.
And the other thing about Mid Ohio, you don't really want to be there in the rain either. I mean, Mid Ohio is kind of treacherous. And boy, watching watching some people that were trying to run there this last weekend, it was a boat race almost, right? It was so wet there this last weekend. So
Oh,
hopefully it'll be good
I was
for you.
actually there running in a TCA.
Oh
Yeah, I was actually there running in a TCA Civic FI, specifically to get front wheel drive rain practice. And
no,
I got my wish.
you
I
got your
got my
wish.
wish. The track was ridiculous.
They've repaved it, but
Um,
before they repaved it, at
I
least when we
was,
used to race back there, it was treacherous the way the water would run across the track in certain spots, and it was hard to drive in the rain. A lot of people go
oh,
off.
we had a 3 hour, yeah, we had a 3 hour rain delay on Saturday. We didn't go green, I think, until 11:45. Um, and I was expecting the same Sunday, and it was cold Sunday. It was 32 degrees, and it was just pouring. It was coming down. And I was like, oh, there's going to be a rain delay. Like, it'll be fine. And there was no rain delay. And all of my teammates looked at me and they were like, not it. And I was like, come on, guys. I qualified. I started yesterday. I was like, doesn't anyone else want to go at this? And everyone was like, nope, have fun.
Short
I was
straws,
like,
and
all
you got
right,
the
well,
short one, right?
we're
Yep,
here to do
off
what
you
we
go.
need to
Off you
do.
go.
Yeah.
You talk about on your website that you do a bit of coaching as well. Obviously, when you get so deep into this, you do all parts of it, right, in order to get as much track time and as much as you love the sport. When you do your driver coaching, do you ride in the car, or do you do everything with just data and video? Are you one that will jump out into a car with a student?
I will absolutely jump out in a car. As cars get faster, obviously people don't want to hop in the car as much.
Yeah.
I have no problem hopping into a car with a cage. In fact, I really love sitting right seat with people still. And so if they have a cage and they want me in there and they don't mind the extra weight, that's one of the first things I love doing with people because you get to see so much more
Yep.
as a driver coach than just from the video and the data. And I mean, there's plenty of times where I only have video data to work with because I'm racing alongside them. I was coaching a lot in BMW CCA where I was also in a car, on track with them. So there's sometimes when you don't have a choice, but I love watching people and watching how they drive and watching what they pay attention to. You can just see so much more about a person's body language, and it's almost like you can tell what they're thinking before they have even realized that they're going to do it. Um, and so it's much easier to catch bad habits and little nuances when you're in the car with them. But for the most part, yeah, I do lots of video data with them. I feel like the little mini Roger Caddell in the paddock, like teaching them how to look at their own data. Um, and just try to teach them the basics so that if they're at the track without me, they can pull it up and at least kind of figure out their way around it. I still do a lot of remote stuff. So even if I'm not at the track, they will send me sessions. They'll send me aim files, and the aim files are great. They're tiny. Even when you're at Watkins Glen with crappy Wi-Fi or no service, at Mid Ohio, they're still super easy to send. Video is a little bit harder, especially when the files are getting bigger and bigger these days. But I can usually do a good amount with just a data file. And then usually people will upload what is their best lap at the end of the day, and then we'll go through that as well.
Back at the hotel, let them get a meal and come back, and where you can sit down and actually get away
Yeah.
from some of the drama
At which
of the
point
track.
I got it, like I'm also then fighting with like, oh, bedtime and happy hour and they've checked out.
It's hard to do sometimes at the track, obviously. The
Yeah.
do, do you one more coach thing? I'm always intrigued because I work with people, and a lot of people that are here with us here now and are watching this later do help their friends with their data as well, not just the driving coaching side. But do you coach somebody that's a little bit different, that is either a new driver or an experienced driver? Do you try to do your coaching exactly the same, or do you change up what's important?
Oh, I absolutely, you have to tailor the coaching to the client, right? Because there will be some people who are super focused on, you know, I need to break as late as possible, or they're especially the newer drivers, they'll be hyper focused on one aspect where they think they're losing all
Right.
of their time. Where some of the other drivers, like we're finding hundreds here and there. So you really kind of have to tailor it to the individual. I work with everyone from, intermediate to advanced drivers, seasoned racers, and everything in between. I did a couple of years with Skip Barber Racing. I've really dealt with everything and,
Everything.
everything in between. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. You got a brand new person, and what they think they're probably fighting is really not what they're fighting, right? In the end, and you can show it to them in the
Yeah.
data, and now they're looking at a 3 to 5 second gain over the course of just a couple of sessions, and then you go to your pro driver, and now, like, it was kind of funny. You're talking about it's hundreds and tenths at the most, right? And you're fine
Yeah.
tuning, and they're pretty dialed in, but yet in motorsports, the data is so important because there are times on all times on the track, but there are times on the track when it's hyper busy, right? Braking zones and downshifting
Yes.
and trail braking, and you're racing a couple of cars, and no matter how good the driver is, there's a point there that you miss that the thing's a little bit loose in or something, right? Because you're just so busy, and with what's going on, so the data is helpful
Yes.
that way. So it's an interesting thing. So yeah, perfect. Putting on your engineering hat, you got all this training and technology, and everything is math, and then you become in this motorsports thing where math is important, the data is important, but there's this whole other flow of things, and some things are hard to see in the data. But how do you, when you're using your engineering brain, your data program, do you when it's just for you and you're out there and you're working on this stuff, are you pretty well defined with your data program, or are you go out, you did something, and you say, okay, well, I know we're a couple of seconds off. I need to figure out, was it on the straightaway with the weather and the motor, or is it braking, or is it are you you discuss and cover what is needed? Where do you fit into that box? I have some people that certainly are on both sides of that, right? No matter what, they're going to do their data, and they've got their process, right? Their user profile tabs, and they're going to walk through all of them, and at some point they're going to get to what they feel is important. But other people do it differently.
Yes. So I am very much a numbers driven person. So from the start, I am that data person. And you know that with the BMWs, I worked with Hugh Stewart, High Speed Motorsports for many years, and it's amazing. Like every time I hang out with Hugh, I mean, he's such a mentor to me. But he just intuitively knows what to change. And so, we're like polar opposites and we're teammates, right? In the BMWs, we're like polar opposites. And I'm convinced, I'm like, no, we have to be methodical with this. This is how it's done. And I learned so much from him, like him just being aware of like, hey, like, oh, this is the conditions, or like he just somehow intuitively knows like, oh, we're scrubbing too much speed because of our toe. And it's like, okay, is it because I'm not thinking about it enough, or like, am I just not feeling it? But it's to actually be fast, you have to have the best of both worlds. So while I was very methodical, data driven, I think it's very important to also intuitively be in tune with your car and the conditions and the track and your driving to be able to mesh those two together to become the fastest driver and to extract the most out of your car.
He's an amazing driver. I've have huge respect for him. I've looked at a lot of his data because of some of my technical compliance stuff that I do, and he is always so darn good. And then you speak with him, and you talk about things, and he's exactly that way. Well, it doesn't do it until
Yeah.
the 3/5 part of the corner, right? And so it's got to be this, and it's like, oh
Yeah.
wow, the guy's good.
Yeah.
So, and
And
he's a
like
nice
I didn't
guy.
know that until
I
I looked
really
at the
like
data.
him.
Like the data tells me. Yeah.
But one comes before the other. You either got it and then you learn the data, or you learn the data and then you get the other piece of it, right? I
Right.
think that's how they complement each
Yes.
other. And then to have him as a mentor and a teammate, that has to really elevate the pace that you come up that ladder, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, pretty interesting. And then you talk about that you're owner of cars as well, and you take your cars and you bring in some other co-drivers, and you go off and run some endurance racing and some other things.
Yes.
How do you use data when it comes to that piece of it? And give us a little bit about what you do as an owner, or if you're still doing it. I don't know if you're still actively on that side with all the busy stuff that you're doing now, but when you did that, what was important to you as far as the data and the video?
Yeah, so we actually had two factory HPD cars, Hondas. We had a TCA Civic Si, the 10th gen, and also a Civic Type R. It was a TC car. Um, and we're no longer doing that. We did that for a couple years back in 2020, and we sold them a couple years ago. But those were really fun cars, and this was my first foray into car and team ownership. I mean, I already did all of the stuff, right, with my BMW. I was like, I can build the BMW, I can maintain the BMW, I can change parts, fix it overnight. I can do all of that. I already teach people how to drive. I was like, why not do team ownership too? What how else can I stress myself out? So we got these TC cars, the TC car and the TCA car, and we were renting them out. Uh, data data is so much more critical as a team owner. My gosh, you want to talk about stress? Now you've got somebody who may or may not know how to drive manual and will not admit that they don't know how to drive manual, and then go try to drive and show you that they are the best race car driver in the world. There's a lot of ego that comes with renting race car seats, and it's a crapshoot, right? Because on one hand, it's a business. You have to fill seats. You have to make sure the business is viable. You have to make sure there's enough people. Um, and there's a million parts going on behind the scenes with the transport, which I also do. Um, and at the end of the day, you also have to make sure your car is going to run tomorrow. Um, so this is where the vehicle health became the forefront of my concern again when it came to data. And, for anyone who has been on an endurance team, rented a car, in your contract, I can guarantee you there's a clause in there, especially if you have a manual car that you're renting, that if you have an over rev, there are said consequences, whether that's a, monetary charge or there's something else, that gets written into that. But the first thing that I unfortunately have to do after every single session, because misshifts are a thing, and everyone does them. You race for long enough, everyone's going to do it. It's not on purpose, but they are things that happen. So the first thing I have to do is, go through all the laps and just, check for a quick, did we exceed red line? And I think I got lucky over the years. I've never had to deal with that particular situation, but I know of many shop owners and team owners who have. And the person who did it obviously is always like, oh, I didn't do that. And
Who, me?
let me tell you, the data never lies.
You're 2,000 over the limit. How did you get there?
Oh, there was, and like, I don't even know if this can be real, but someone once sent me data, and their S54, there's a spike because they were like, oh, like it was in the wrong gear for just a second. I pulled it out, and I'm looking at the data, and it says like 18,000, and I'm like, I'm here having a stroke, and they're like, well, I think I'm gonna race tomorrow, and I'm like, I really don't think you should. And they're like, oh, it sounded okay. And I'm like, it's not looking okay, bro. They're like,
this is bad. This is bad.
Yeah.
Things are
They're
bent
like,
right now,
I
and we
really
just
don't
don't know
think it
it.
went to 18,000. I'm like, it went to 18,000. It says it right here.
If it wasn't 18, it was very, very high. The the I've had a couple of
Yes.
them recently that in the Mazda NC cars, the way the transmission works, and it was Barber actually where I seen it the most, which was I think turn two is the long right hander, and that in that class it's you're going
Mhm.
from second and you're going. I think you're going from third to fourth in the middle of that corner with a lot of G's, right? Maximum G's, and
Yeah.
probably three or four drivers got second at red line in third,
Yep.
going for
Because you're
fourth, but
you're
got
pulling it
second.
towards you.
Yeah, and they're in the middle of a battle, and one of them I counted it. It was like a second and a half or 2 seconds flat to the floor. Cars slowing down because it just can't, and they
Yeah.
left it. They left it there for like a second and a half, and it's just like huge numbers, right? 93, 9400 on a 7500 rev limiter, and it's like, how did you can't get there? But downshifts at the, catching the lower gear at the wrong time is how you get there. So
Yep.
yeah, crazy. So vehicle health obviously becomes something that's that is very strong. But you also want the customer, if they've got some sense and you feel some that they've got some skill, then you want to provide vehicle or driver performance help with them as well, right? You want to help them because
Absolutely.
you want them to be happy, and of course you want your car to do well because that's going to help you next week
Yeah.
when you go to rent the thing
Absolutely.
again, right? So you spend some time in that site as well. How did you build a data station of some sort, or did you just work off of a laptop, or did you get an extra monitor or something like that?
Mine was always just my laptop. I should probably upgrade my laptop at this point. I just put a new motherboard in it because I have a Windows laptop for all the AIM stuff. But yeah, I run it off my laptop.
Yeah,
We
oh,
usually just
perfect.
hop into the trailer. And I've got it. I feel like I train them all really well. And the first thing they do is they bring me the memory card from the Smarty Cam. And the one thing I always got to remind them, I always have to write on, which side faces the front of the Smarty Cam, which side faces back. Because sometimes I get people like jamming it in backwards, and they're like, "Oh, it's really hard to put it in." Like, well, maybe because it didn't go in that way.
Yeah, that's not the way to do it. That's
Um,
why it's giving you a hint. The for those of you that
yeah.
some that are listening, I started at some point with when laptops started to get the right cabling to make it easy. We could I could go to Best Buy and get a cheap 24-inch monitor and just and cable it up, and if it $100 or a little less than $100 sometimes for these cheap monitors, and so you leave it in the trailer and it's not going to last very long, obviously bouncing down the highway, but boy, that one additional monitor where somebody can be watching on the screen on the laptop, but then everybody else kind of hovering around the monitor, you can see video and all that. It's pretty reasonable, right, to get to that. So we'll
Yeah.
see. And
I did have a monitor set up a year or two ago, and we did have the data up like you said, and then my driver was like, my driver was like, well, you're also coaching one of my competitors, and I don't want him seeing that. And so we took that down because he had kind of slunk by to like hear what we were talking about. And so, we made sure it was very private. We're like, all right, we'll do your session, then we'll go do his session, and we'll keep them very separate.
the games we play, right? The games we play. Oh,
Yes.
an upcoming webinar, by the way, for everybody that's listening here. One of the things I want to do, I've gotten this question again, five or 10 times over the last couple of months, is what is the computer that Race Studio 3 now needs, right? What is the current suggestion? It won't be a webinar that lasts, has a long shelf life, but maybe a year or something, because computers change so quickly. But I think I'm going to bring somebody in that we can sit down and go over what are some of the minimum specs, and what, if you're going to, why would you get more RAM for this, or why would you get the video card if you're going to do this? What's important to you, right? And then come up with a base system that people can watch this video and get, because people are needing to buy computers, and I think that would be helpful to some people to have a webinar on that. So perfect. Well, we're getting pretty close to the end. Is there anything that you would like to kind of chat about that we don't have? We do have one question I want to jump back to in a minute, but you have anything else that you'd like to chat about that is new and big happening?
Um, no, I think we covered a lot. I've got a couple of IMSA races coming up, so if any of you guys listening are going to come out, just hit me up. I've got lots of swag. Come by the garages, come by the trailer. We'll be doing Mid-O, Watkins Glen in June, Indy in September, and Road Atlanta as well.
With the same team that you ran in the Audi as well?
Yes.
Oh, very good, very good. So if they get past the power problems, you're going to be in pretty good shape, because it looks like your times
Yes.
came down pretty well as you were approaching and moving on. Jeff has a question for you, and I always find this one to be an interesting one with drivers that have come up like you have, especially, is in a race environment. How have you handled the car without ABS that you probably started with, and then ran with some cars that had ABS, and maybe this new car doesn't? How personally, how has that ABS, non-ABS been a thorn in your side as you drive at the limit?
Yeah, I've driven a variety of cars with and without ABS. You're right. I started in my very first race I did in an E30, did not have ABS. Um, and that experience in itself taught me so much, because it was also at Watkins Glen, where not a whole lot of room for error, and I was now experiencing like, oh wow, this is what happens. Like, you actually have to just let off the throttle, and I learned very quickly to feel what that needed to be and modulate that brake pedal. And I'll be honest, not having ABS doesn't bother me. That said, Motorsports ABS, I do think is absolutely wonderful. I'm a big fan of technology. And in fact, I actually have the upgraded MK60 system that I put into the E36 and both of my E46s. So I'm a big fan of technology when you can have it. Obviously, like the Miatas that I've raced, the E30s I've raced, if you can't have it, it's usually for a car that is also designed that doesn't necessarily need it. The E36s, the E46s, the brake bias is also controlled by that ABS module. And so it kind of made it necessary. I did race the E36 without ABS for one race. It was not fun.
Your tire bill went up?
I managed it. It wasn't fun. The brake bias would send 100% bias. It would pick one wheel, and it was like, we're just going to stop over here. I think I ruined a set of Hoosiers. I did well in the race because I did my best to modulate, but if the car's designed with ABS, don't take it out. Like, use it for what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
But I will say, yes, driving without ABS is a wonderful thing. And I think that kind of like driving manual, everyone should learn how to drive a car with no ABS, with no traction, with, a 6-speed, because more and more of these cars these days, especially when you go to rent a seat, you see, flappy paddles and Motorsports ABS, and it's all great. Trust me, it's wonderful. I used to be against it. But I think that it does make you a better driver if you can drive without those things. That said, if you have the chance to drive a car that has all those wonderful things, use it. The Audi TCR that I'm driving now has Motorsports ABS, and it is incredible. I can stand on the brake pedal and it does its job like nobody's business. The reason it's important for you guys to also know how to drive without ABS is because at Daytona during the race, we did not have ABS. It went out. We had brake issues during the entirety of the race. I actually did not have Motorsports ABS during Daytona. And I could feel, I knew immediately, I was like, there's something weird with the braking. I was like, I think I don't have ABS based on what I feel. And so I tested it. I was like, let's just make sure. I've got a little bit extra room here in turn one. We got to go from, 158 to 40, no big deal. But let's just go a little deeper and let's just make sure I don't have ABS before I go into turn three and there's a wall there. And sure enough, I trusted my gut and I was like, okay, we overshot turn one because I was right. We don't have ABS, but now I know how to dial that back and modulate that for the rest of my 2 hours and manage this without ABS. So, learn how to drive without, but utilize it if you have it. You can always fall back onto the knowledge that you have and modulate and continue on your race. But it's super important.
So important for drivers to be able to adjust, right? To make things happen
Yes.
once you get out of the paddock area, because there's nothing anybody can do to help you for the next hour, right? So if there are
Yep.
so many younger drivers and drivers that are don't have a ton of skill yet, they go out there and they're hitting their marks, and yet they can't adjust to something that is going wrong. The toe gets bumped out, or and all of a sudden the car is understeering a lot. Well, you have to drive around that. You got to do. What are you
Yeah.
going to do? Come into the and quit? That's not part of what we do.
All right. You got
So
what you got.
you got what you
I had a
got,
driver.
and make it happen.
Yeah, I had a driver one time on the radio on the outlap. He was like, "Oh, he's like, we made that shock adjustment, but it still feels like it's understeering." And I was like, "All right, cool, have fun." Like, what do you want to do? Like, you're going green this lap. What do you want to do? Like, have fun,
You
feel
you
it.
can't come in here. That's not an option. So
Right.
learn it. You got a new big training session for the next hour, because you're going to learn how to drive around an understeer car. Do you drive in
Yeah.
faster and harder? No. There's ways of making this happen. Go try some things and get the feel of it. Right.
Yep.
That's all you can do. It's a learning experience. It's a crazy world out here. Right. So, well, perfect. I appreciate that. And I see kids come up from karts to spec Miata to their first step into an NC Miata, where that's their very first time they ever have ABS brakes. And there becomes this one or two race learning curve. It's just the way it is, right? You're so used to only doing things one way, and then all of a sudden you have to change. It's fantastic for your career because you're learning a whole nother skill set, right? And understanding, and that's just
Yes.
a manufacturer's street car ABS, and then you go to the next level that you have with your BMWs, with the BMW Motorsport one, and then of course the Audi. Yeah, everybody I've talked to, this just say, just go in there now. All you got to do is pick your braking point and just stand on it, right? And the things as long as they're working, they work very, very well. So pretty
Yeah.
cool.
I remember the first time I drove. I tested a 992 GT3R last year, and the again, like, just the braking ability of that car versus everything else I had ever driven was
Magic,
so high. Just
magic.
the learning curve is yeah, it's absolute magic.
Yeah, pretty cool. Okay, let's jump back. Let me share my screen again. Let's jump over here. Kind of wind this down a little bit. The fantastic discussion. I hope some of you got some different things out of it. Not just from the data side, but from the coaching side and the driver side, and the path to get up there. She was lying to her co-driver at Nuremberg, and then she has people lying to her later when she owns the cars. That's kind of funny. That's a funny piece that I grabbed out of that. So that was that's kind of funny. She's a race car driver. That's what race car drivers do, right? So, this video will, a little bit later tonight, will be up on our YouTube site. Just visit the YouTube site at AIM Data and go watch just 277 videos up there now. So there's just a ton. the YouTube site has a pretty darn good search button there, and I put a lot of keywords in. And so if there's something you want to learn, and even if it's in an hour long, you should be able to narrow it down pretty quickly to the 2 or 3 videos that cover something. So visit there, and anything that we talked about, any links that were shared today in the chat box for those of you that are watching this later on YouTube will be in the description box, and all of Christina's contact information, which we're going to show here in just a quick second, will all be available for you there as well. So go ahead and jump in there and take a look at some of our videos that we've got made and share there. AIM is a customer support company. This is what we do: sell some great products, some great software, have lots of great people that use them, like Christina, and we're out there to help support and work these things as best we can, give you the most bang for your buck as far as your data needs. And if you see some of the staff out there walking around, say hi to them, give them a tall ice water. They're out there, they're working pretty hard. And if you can't find anybody at the time, we have an 800 number that you may or may not catch somebody on the weekend, but certainly you'll have my information, you have other people's information, plus the 800 number during the week. So we're there for not only software support, but hardware support, fixes, repairs, all of that stuff, wiring harnesses, all the CAN stuff. Give us a call. We'll be out there to help you out as best we can. Our next webinar is all about user profiles. Looking forward to this, April 29th. One of our midday ones, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to take control of that one, and we're going to introduce user profiles, and we're going to take them all the way up. If somebody doesn't know anything, we'll be able to get something. If you're already using them, we're going to find a lot of cool little tips and tricks that are pretty deep into it. So even if you're a power user of user profiles, I think we're going to have a few things for you to learn as well. So we're looking forward to that one here towards the end of the month. So Christina's information about how to get a hold of her. There's her social media. Should be able to, since it's all the same, it should be pretty easy to find her there. And she's pretty active in that. So go out and check some of that out. She talks a lot about her racing, motorsports, and even the trip up to Washington D.C. this weekend. There's a hello at ChristinaLamRacing.com is how you can get a hold of her if you want to do some driver coaching, or I know we didn't talk about it, but I know you're big into the sim racing side as well, and probably support some things and some people there, and of course her website down there at the bottom. So and my email address if there's something that we talked about today and you'd like to hear about a couple things, I'd look forward to chatting with you as well. Christine, I appreciate you coming. I know it did take us a while to make it happen, but I appreciate it. I think I had a great time, and from seeing in the chat, there's a lot of folks there that said they had a great time listening to some of your stories and some of your background, and they'll watch you a lot closer from now on. So, is there anything else that you kind of like to add as we close this one down?
No, I just want to thank you guys so much for all tuning in tonight. And thank you so much, Roger, for having me on here. Again, I'm just really stoked because I've been following your stuff for years. So now I feel like I've really made it being on one of these webinars.
And we get to see each other at once a year, whether we like to or no, at the PRI show. I've always looked forward to you walking by. There's probably 15 or 20 people that I get to see that are really, I don't get to see them all the time, but some of those people where you don't know them, you don't see them all the time, but they are truly good friends. And when you and Hugh walk by, or you, and then a number of other people, we could just take off our conversation right where we were last. And Motorsports is a small world, and have some really good people in it. So I appreciate you coming too. Maybe we'll get back in touch with you towards the end of the year, and we'll see how things go. Keep us up to date, and as things happen with you. And I look forward to catching up later.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Roger.
Thank you very much, everybody else. Have a great night, and we'll see you at the end of the month for user profiles. Talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.